Welcome, DGens, far and wide, to another edition of the DGen Docs. That's right, folks. Today we are breaking down the NFC North. That is right, that nasty division up north there. We are talking preview with major injury analysis, free agency moves, and of course, fantasy takes and your best bets coming. That's right. I hope you're ready to go, folks. Join two healthcare professionals that first love was football, and second love was making money off football. We look at the game a little bit differently here, so we hope you're ready to join us. And cheers, folks. We're going to bet into it. Before we jump in this episode, NFC North preview edition of the DGen Docs on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up with promo code SGPNDOC. That is promo code SGPNDOC, all caps, one word, to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPNDOC. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right. Of course, as always, I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Professor Locks himself, Derek Bennett. How we doing tonight, brother?
We're doing great, dude. Doing great. Always a great time to have a drink and talk some football with you.
Hey, man. I think 80 days or so out, maybe even in the 70s.
I think we're down in the 70s. I think we're 78, 79 now.
Hey, man. Nothing better than that, right? We're getting inching closer. But right now it is a little bit of a baseball season, you know.
It is baseball season.
Staying close to me. Nice little.
Another little gift from Kentucky popping out there.
Yeah, speaking of Kentucky, Florida Gators put belt to ass to the Kentucky Wildcats today,
yes,
folks.
We're
recording this on June 19th. So right now, my Florida Gators College World Series, they survived, beat Kentucky 15-4. They're taking on the A&M right now for a spot in the final. So let's go Gators, baby. That's why.
Not looking good so far, but we still got plenty of ball to play. So
the Swamp kids, come on. The Cardiac kids, we're good, baby. We took down the Cats. I'm happy. So
got to bring the bats back out for the second half of the game. But
yeah, exactly. That's about as much baseball talk as I can do. All right, getting back to
hey man, the dog days of summer are upon us. We've got a new NBA champ. Almost, we're getting pretty close to an NHL champ, but it'll be interesting. See if Edmonton can keep putting on Florida.
Yeah, I mean, hey, anything that comes out of Boston, I don't like. So I'm not happy about the NBA with the Celtics there, but it's pretty much the same thing about Dallas. So it's not really like it was a lose-lose situation. But Stanley Cup, man, I mean, you got two good storylines, whether first Canadian team in 25 years or the first ever franchise Stanley Cup for the Florida Panthers, 30 years.
Exactly. And that'll bring all four. That'll be the fourth team from Miami or around Miami to win a championship. They're the only one that hasn't.
Wow.
The Dolphins have.
South Florida hockey town?
Heat have. That's right.
It's always funny hearing the hockey players saying on their day off they're going to the beach. Something doesn't feel right about that, but hey, man, they
going to the beach, going to play some golf. It is what it is, but
yeah, we'll see because right now the Edmonton's putting them on it. So Game 6 heading back up to Alberta there, so that's going to be a good one. Keep us a little bit on, because I know I'm fiending for football already. UFL ended like 2 days ago, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Exactly. All right. Quick clarification piece. I think put your hands up. What do you got to say to the people?
So this is our second division. We're going each division, talking about injuries, talking about major additions, losses, those kind of things. We started with the NFC South, of course, with the Carolina Panthers. I may have thrown out Bryce Young to win the comeback player of the year at plus, I think it's 40-1, because he was god awful his rookie season, and what a better way to come back and put some maybe put some wins in that column. Maybe, I don't know, probably not. Anyways, but evidently that's not how you win the comeback player of the year anymore.
This was yeah. So we're talking about this is Adam Levitan there on Twitter.
Yeah.
Said pretty interesting. The committee after Joe Flacco won last year, everyone thought DeMar Hamlin should. I actually, even though we're on the medical side, first it's amazing that he came back, was able to play. He's a big guy. I
Yep.
like DeMar Hamlin, but I don't mind giving it to Joey Flacco there. He really he was kind of lights out to come back off the couch and really take that team.
Literally off the couch and picking his kids up from school
Yeah.
to lighten it up and probably averaging what 350 a game.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, he
Joe
was
Flacco
lighting it up for the Brownies.
alt over passing yards on Flacco. I'm just salivating thinking about how much money he brought us last year. So, I mean, I will say, yeah, of course, I don't know if I agree with this, but since we brought it up, I originally was a little skeptical, but it was 40-1. But now it looks like we may want to retract that on Bryce Young because, yeah, the committee is being told pretty much unless it's an injury or some other circumstance where they miss time, illness, injury, or other circumstance where they actually miss playing time, not just that they suck. It seems like that will, that's what's really going to win you the award there. So Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, all those guys, probably not. But these awards, that's the thing with these awards where it's, humans.
Hey, but all of our big Achilles guys have a chance.
That's true. We definitely got some people we could definitely be throwing. Yeah. Yep. Your cousins, your Rodgers. Exactly. So, but just wanted to update the good people there. All right, brother. You ready to get into it, or you got anything else before we get into this?
Well, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm working off some Elijah Craig here. Nothing too fancy.
Solid.
What about yourself?
Solid. So I have a buddy that big time Instagram, TikTok, person guy.
Whiskey
that
influencer.
did a barrel. What's that?
A whiskey influencer.
He is a whiskey influencer, but big time. So if you don't know of 2 Ounce Whiskey, look at 2 Ounce Whiskey on Instagram, TikTok. But my guy, sure Paul did a barrel pick with Watershed, who's out of Columbus, makes a great product. So repping him tonight.
Hey man, I hope I can one day get to the point where I just buy an entire barrel of whiskey just for the shits and gigs, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it sounded like a great time. I think they rolled out like 3 or 4 or 5 barrels and let him try each one. Is like, which one's your favorite? So what a more fun way to try whiskeys. It's like, all right, here's a whole barrel.
Most of us whiskey taste by the little guys, the little less than shots, and this guy's tasting them by the barrel.
1/4 ounce taster, yeah.
Must be nice. Must be fucking nice, man.
But yeah, let's get into this. And who are we starting with? The Lions?
Yes, sir. We are going to start with the Detroit Lions. Let's go ahead and bring them up here. So what's going to run through some of these Detroit Lions coming off a solid year. So we'll start with the reigning NFC North champion. And we'll start with their record. They're coming off a record of 12-5 last year. Some of their losses, lost both their guards, Vaitai and Jackson, some pretty good players there. Josh Reynolds, solid starting wide receiver. Cam Sutton and CJ went back to Philly. So losing some guys in the secondary, some guys in the front, but they did bring in a lot. They brought in defensive tackle DJ Reader, who we'll talk about in a second. Carlton Davis from the Bucks, Marcus Davenport, and then Kevin Zeitler, who just keeps getting passed around the league, but he's a solid offensive guard. And then they really went cornerback heavy, picking up Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold, and NX Regstra. Probably butchered that, so apologies. Or maybe Rockstraw. I don't know, but hey,
cut off.
Yeah, rookie out of Missouri there, and then Mr. Jake Bates, Mr. UFL. Mr. Big Leg himself, getting a 2-year contract. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of these big takeaways. So, I think that some of the things talking about that secondary. So I'll lead us off here talking about the secondary. I think they were, when you looked at the Lions last year, that's what I think they were missing was those, especially at the cornerback position. I think it is improved on paper, right? A lot of young guys, the 2 rookies, their first 2 round draft picks. That's what they started with. But they also brought in a veteran in Carlton Davis from the Bucks. You got Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, who we're going to talk about in a little bit there. But I do think they're making a good effort on the secondary there. What are some takeaways you were thinking?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, obviously they lose CJ back to Philly, but they brought in a ton of DBs with a ton of talent. Like you said, they brought in the veteran in Carlton Davis, who was a stud down in Tampa, but
Hmm.
they also brought in a couple young bucks in terms of Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. So, like you said, I think that was their big, you know, lacking point. They weren't great against the pass last year, but then they
Yeah,
also brought in a couple guys up front with Marcus Davenport to go opposite. Um,
Hutch there.
yeah, Hutch,
Yeah.
and then DJ Reader up front. So obviously their offense put up some points last year,
Yep.
but they did lose Josh Reynolds, who was probably their number two. They really didn't have much of a number two,
Yep.
um, which
Yeah.
which is kind of a concern that they didn't bring in another pass catcher to me personally.
Nah,
Um,
I agree.
but I think they brought in guys where they needed the most.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair. Before we get too far down that hole, let's talk about some of the big injuries there. You got a couple, two major ones. We'll start
Mhm,
with defensive tackle DJ Reader, one of their big offseason acquisitions there. Quad tendon tear, pretty
mhm.
severe injury. Like it sounds, the tendon that connects your quad to your patella at the top of your knee there, it was torn, a complete tear. He does require surgery, about 6 to 8 month recovery. He's got about 8.5 months until he gets back. So what are you thinking as far as DJ Reader? Do you think he comes back and slides in? He takes a little time. What are your thoughts there with the 8.5 months until week one?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, the expected recovery is like that 6 to 8 month. We have that time, but at the same point, like if the Lions want to get to where they want to get, like they were so close last year to getting a super or getting to the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if he's on like a snap count early on just to get him back into the swing of things. Like you said, if we're expecting him to be out 6 to 8 months, that puts us right into training camp, maybe into training camp before he actually gets on the field. So it may take him a little bit of time to actually get rolling again.
No, yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm right there with you. Right. I think that, it's not like I'm worried about him not playing this year or anything like that crazy, but I think it could be a slow start. He's a big boy. He's going to take some time to getting back used to it. So I would not really be counting on him in the early part of the year. I think he'll kind of make his way back on. But I think that defense, that D line can kind of make up for him there. You got Lee McNeil. You got a couple backups, so
Yep.
that might be a position where they're kind of missing out early on. Broderick Martin, Levi Onwuzurike. If I don't know your name, I watch a lot of football. That's probably not a good sign. So a little bit of concern early on, but again, that defensive line with Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, who's sneaky in the sack market,
Mhm.
probably the snack market too. It's probably not bad there. But
He loves the snacks to get the sacks.
Yes, exactly. And then Davenport on the other side. That's a pretty solid group there. We got Kirby Joseph, who was trying to keep it under wraps, but he had
Yeah.
hip surgery
Yep.
after the season.
Battled most of the season with it.
Yeah, I think he picked up the injury in week 2, and then required a hip surgery. So whether that's a labrum or they didn't
It's
really
hard to say.
say. Probably something around
Some
internal,
impingement, some
obviously.
labral stuff going on there
Yeah.
probably. Yep. It's hard to
So
say.
he's looking at about a 7 month recovery per reports. Because we don't know the exact injury. We're just going off the reports of what they're saying.
Right.
He's got about 5 to 7 months. Or excuse me, the recovery time's around 5 to 7 months. He's got 7 months until week 1 from when he had the surgery. It's gonna be very interesting in training camp if he's gonna be back or not. I think that would be on the early side. I kind of almost wouldn't expect him to. You
Mhm.
got Brian Branch on the other side, who's also coming off of ankle surgery that he had a cleanup procedure in May.
Right.
He was seen with the scooter, and they kind of Campbell was finally said like, yeah, it was an injury because he was dealing with some ankle stuff last year, a little bit of a high ankle, and so it just kind of had a cleanup procedure. Nothing crazy, but it does take about 2 to 3 months to recover from most surgeries, even the minor ones. So he's got 3 months until the season. So you really got both your starting safeties. They should be good to go, but I'm not super confident. There's not a lot of wiggle room for both those guys. How do you see it as far as Branch and Kirby Joseph? How worried are you?
Yeah, no, I think like you said, it's a slight concern because those expected timelines kind of bump right up to week one. So similar to DJ Reader, like it may take them a few weeks to kind of get back into football shape, to get back into
Yep.
swing of things, especially with all the new additions to the secondary.
Yep.
So it'll be
Your
interesting to
rookies.
see if they try to get those guys back in just to start, kind of building that rapport, building that chemistry with those new guys,
Yep.
or if they, try to protect them a little bit more, maybe put them on a slight snap count. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I mean, you really got three starters on defense that it's all in that same boat. Like, if they're
Right.
on the early end of their recovery, that rehab timeline, like, yeah, well, they should be good to go week one, but they are getting pretty close. So, really a
Yep.
situation you want to monitor early on in the
And,
season. Again,
and,
I don't
and it's not
pass.
like the Lions are starting with a couple, bottom of the road. They're starting with the Rams and Tampa Bay, who are both playoff teams. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah.
And
Matty
both
Stafford,
like to
revenge.
throw it around a little bit. So
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. So yeah, that one's definitely ones we're gonna be watching very closely as we start to get to our week one picks and start to see how these guys are coming along. But a little bit of pause early on. I don't think past week 4 this is really going to be an issue. But
yeah.
again, those first quarter of the season there, and then we got Jahmyr Gibbs picked up a soft tissue injury in OTAs. Expected to be minors, but a lot more questions than answers here. It's hard to even speculate what it is. Likely something lower body, whether it's a calf or hamstring, whatever, soft tissue. I mean, they're not super concerned. He's got, what are we looking at? Almost a month, if not a little more, until training
Right.
camp. So, if he's limited in training camp, I think we can start to have some concerns. But as of right now, based on what we know, I think we're it would be a little bit overreacting to kind of avoid him or anything like that. What's your take on it?
Yeah, no, I think like you said, it's really hard to say what a soft tissue injury really is.
Yeah.
And usually what that comes down to is some sort of a strain.
Hmm.
So most likely he's trying to strengthen everything up as much as he can over the next month, and then start kind of almost taste testing or testing the waters, testing the waters early on in training camp, getting back into sprinting, jumping, cutting, those kind of things.
Yeah. All right. Before we get over to the actionable information, whether that is fantasy or best bets, what you got any other takeaways for this team? Anything, big picture stuff for the Detroit Lions heading into 24 season?
No, I think the biggest thing with the Lions is like they finally did it. They finally got to the playoffs. They have some expectations. They have a number one schedule now, like top of
Yep.
the division schedule.
Hmm.
So can they take that next step with those now high expectations
Yeah.
for
No,
those Lions?
absolutely. I mean, it's still the Detroit Lions, right? You're always gonna have that pause for our pretty much our most of our lifetime. They've been
Oh
pretty
yeah,
active. So I think that definitely makes sense. One other thing I want to point out before we get into the bets, this offensive line is really, really fucking good on paper.
it is.
So we got Taylor Decker at the left tackle, Graham Glasgow at left guard, Frank
Mhm.
Ragnow center, Kevin Zeitler your right guard, and Penny Sewell on your right tackle. Man, uh, again, hey, we talk about football here. We're going to talk about the big nasties if they're really freaking good. And on paper, this may be one of the best offensive lines in the league. They were really good last year. When
Oh
I
yeah.
looked at their losses, I was a little, hesitant with Jackson and Vaitai leaving. I think Zeitler is a great addition.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, I'm
Good
being
slider
a
in there.
Giants fan. I'm a strong believer that your steam starts from the inside out. Your offensive, defensive lines. This offensive line, it means business. So I really
No doubt.
am excited there, and that's going to lead me. I'll kick us off here with these best bets. Actually, why don't you kick us off? Go ahead. What do you got?
So for the Lions, I'm a big Sam Laporta guy. I love Laporta, especially like I said earlier. Besides St. Brown, like
Yep.
who else are they going to throw it to? They really don't have a number two wide receiver option,
Yep.
and Goff will chuck it around. He'll throw it all over the place. So Sam Laporta and him got chemistry really quickly last year. So I'm going to take his over receiving yards at 850.5.
Yeah. Man, Laporta looked good, like straight from the get-go, man. He was a
That dude's
smash
a
pick.
monster.
Yeah, between
I
him and
saw,
Gibbs and Sanborn, I
well,
mean,
and tight end U is going on right now,
not
or maybe just finished up or whatever. That dude is a monster. Standing
dude.
next to other tight ends, he's just jocked. I mean, he is yoked.
I need an Iowa Hawkeye tight end on my team, man.
No
Maybe
doubt.
not any other position, maybe offensive line, maybe Cooper
Maybe
DeJean, but
punter.
that's tight end punter. Yeah, not too many, but if it's a tight end and he's a Hawkeye, I'll take him.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll follow that up. Did you have any others for the Lions there?
That was it for the Lions.
Okay. Yeah, in a similar fashion, I got two. First one I'll give out was kind of along those lines. We talked about, who is going to step up outside of St. Brown. You talked about Laporta. I think he can definitely get his work there. But, it's Jamison Williams and Khalif Raymond. And then maybe Donovan People-Jones, I guess. That's not really the most confident. I know every year people fall in love with Jamison Williams because he's he's fast as shit. I mean, there's no wrong about it, right? He can make these plays, but he's had injury concerns, and he hasn't shown that he can be really anything but a flyer right now. I know he had a great career at Alabama, but Alabama,
one season at Alabama. Let's be real.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah. Well, I know he's a former Buckeye, so you're not not always going to give him the benefit.
He couldn't crack the starting lineup in Columbus, but.
Mm-hmm. Well,
who am I?
Yeah. So my first bet for the Lions is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown to lead the league in receiving yards at 11-1, plus 1,100 there.
I had that one written down, so I really like that pick.
I mean, it is a little bit short for a market like this, but I do think 11-1 is still a good value here. He was third in the league last year, right? And I think he's like fifth in the odds market. He had a little bit over 1,500 yards. Tyreek had like 1,790 something.
Really, like I said, I was looking at that market as well, and basically everybody other than CeeDee Lamb has like a running partner with them. Like you said, Tyreek Hill has Waddle. AJ Brown has
Smith. Yeah, Puka.
I mean, exactly. So most of those other guys have running partners that may be sharing some yards along the way.
And you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and I think, well, first of all, fuck the Cowboys, but also, I don't know if. I don't know if they can really recreate that. I think
who knows what Dak's gonna end up doing this year too. I mean, with his contract issues,
Yeah, I mean, I think things kind of fell apart for Dallas. I'm not super high on Dallas. We'll get to that episode. So, but also 650, I think is just too short for something that is, I think I need, if it's not, I need at least even Amon-Ra, I was questioning it, but it's got to be over 10-1 for me in these markets. It's just, you're talking something season long. There's so many variables that can go into play here, but I think what we were talking about here is he's the clear alpha on this team on the outside. And, a great offensive line. Yes, they're going to run the ball, but still, even with how much they ran the ball last year, he was not that far off pace. Like you said, Josh Reynolds, some other guys leave. And I really think this offense is going to put up some damn points this year, playing in a dome. So, and that defense, you got a lot of, we talked about how they may be better, but a lot of young secondary guys, may have to take some adjustment there. So give me that. And the other one I like is pretty simple.
Nate Bates for a 70-yarder. Oh,
yeah. Is pretty simple. NFC North champs, plus 150. I just think it's mispriced. Trust me, last year I was ready to fade the Lions. I did fade the Lions at a certain point. I was not trying to believe the hype until really they just kept proving me wrong. I'm not going to fall into that trap this year. They're a really good team. Again, that offensive line for me is a huge piece. Jared Goff, they got him playing as better as he has in his career. Montgomery and Gibbs, I would say the only other play I was looking at is Montgomery over, because every year people forget about David Montgomery. You know who does not forget about David Montgomery? Their head coach, Dan Campbell. He loves the shit out of David Montgomery. 5 yards in a cloud of dust, 3 yards, whatever it is. He loves that. So he's not going to stop giving the ball.
Kneecap.
Yeah, I mean, as much as the fantasy community loves Jahmyr Gibbs and he's an electric player, Dan Campbell loves Montgomery. So when that comes out, I will be on his
getting inside the 10. Montgomery's getting the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
More often than not.
And I think that's why you keep Gibbs fresh, keep him, healthy. But Lions champs plus 150. Not anything sexy like the Monroe pick. I just think they're the best team overall. All right. Let's move on to before we move on, let's go ahead and talk about countdown to football season is on, folks. And SGPN has got you covered. The college football experience is doing individual team previews for every college football team. Yes, we're serious. Every Division I college football team, they are doing like an hour-long episode, full breakdown. I listen to them. It's a great way to get you started for the season. If you love college football, you're going to love the college football experience. Make sure you check them out. Also, SGPN's 5-Minute Fantasy Football is your quick and dirty podcast to get you prepped for all things fantasy. My guy Dave over there does a great job straight from a fantasy angle. Look, 5 minutes. You're in, you're out, 3 episodes a week. He gets it real quick, nice and dirty. He's great at those rankings and breaking news. So check Dave out over there at the 5-Minute Fantasy Football. All right, we're heading on to the team that finished second in the division, and that is your Green Bay Packers there.
Cheeseheads.
Yes, the Cheeseheads. Looking at Lambeau Field. Oh, that's football weather right there. But 9-8 last year. They were a playoff team. They did knock off the Cowgirls there, so cheers to them. Let's look at some of their additions there. Losses, excuse me. First, they lost Aaron there. Aaron Jones to their division rival, Minnesota Vikings. Always a bit interesting when a guy goes to someone in the division. Then they've got Darnell Savage, safety starter. He went to Jacksonville. Devondre Campbell is now a 49er, which is they were going to need him. We'll talk about him, but obviously everybody saw Greenlaw tear his ACL in the Super Bowl. So John Runyon, they're one of their really stud, and I emphasize stud offensive guards because he's going to my New York Football Giants. And Bakhtiari is a free agent after his ACL and just not being the same. So I don't know if anyone's going to pick him up. And then their starter after Bakhtiari was out, Josh Neiman or Nijman or whatever how you say that, is now a Carolina Panther trying to protect Bryce Young there. Over the additions, so they filled Aaron Jones' role with Josh.
A couple studs.
They did bring in
Josh Jacobs. Jacobs.
I would say right. They didn't do a ton.
Xavier McKinney.
But I will say the guys they brought in, at least the top 3, Josh Jacobs, McKinney, and Greg Joseph coming over from the Vikings is a solid kicker. But Andre Dillard, he's kind of been a little bit more of a journeyman. Didn't really work out as a high draft pick over from the Eagles. But yeah, McKinney and Jacobs, I think could be good for them. So what are you thinking big takeaways for this team?
I mean, just looking back at them last season, like they just had a ton of unproven dudes that went out and balled out. Like for the most part, they lost a ton of veterans. So it'll be interesting to see if those younger guys that, have only been starting a year or two can take that next step and really keep the Packers rolling. Like I said, I really liked some of their additions, and Josh Jacobs, obviously. It's kind of a strange move to move on from Aaron Jones for Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
But I mean, he has proven himself in Vegas. Xavier McKinney, sorry to bring him up, but
it's all right.
He's not his fault. Safety.
It's the ATV's fault.
He's a stud safety. So filling in for Darnell Savage, who had some good moments as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I think we'll see how it balances out. Not a crazy. I will talk about the O-line here in a second, but we're going to talk about some of their injuries there. Xavier McKinney is not injured. Hey, I got no hard feelings. He played well, X-Man for the Giants, but really that ATV on the bye week took him out. He was not the same since then, so I don't hate that he left. All right, they've got Eric Stokes is their starting cornerback opposite side of Jair Alexander. His was more, he finished the season on IR. He had a hamstring injury, and he re-injured the hamstring injury. He's had hamstring injuries consistently in his career. As we know, hamstring injuries are very burdensome. They suck because you feel better before the muscle is actually healed, fully ready to go. So players wanting to get back on the field, they try to rush it too soon. Very high re-injury rates, as Eric Stokes found. So, even in the worst case, 3 to 4 months. But he does have 8.5 months to the season. So any concerns there? What are you thinking about Stokes?
Honestly, I don't have a ton of concern from Stokes. Hamstring injuries are, like you said, they're rather concerning in the middle of the season because of that high reoccurrence rate. But with that being said, he's had all kinds of time to rehab and get that thing as strong and activating it a little bit quicker so that
Yeah.
he doesn't restrain it. So really no major concerns.
Yeah, I think the big, you know, what's more concerning? I don't know if you saw this, but obviously, fellow Packer Christian Watson, stud, when he's on the
Yeah,
field, clear,
yeah.
clear thing when he's on the field, right? It looks like they were like did this giant study about figuring out what's wrong with his hamstrings. I don't know if you saw the results of that. So they said the takeaway was that he has an asymmetry in his hamstrings. Any decent rehab team or strength and conditioning coach should have known that. I don't know. Like, it wasn't like, at least I know we look at things a little differently, but that was not like a big thing. I thought they were going to like come out with some new device or
That should
something.
you should be able to pick that up in a week.
That's, I mean, yeah, I had the opportunity to interview the head of player performance for the UFL, Coach Sean Hayes, former Harvard linebacker, and he was talking to me about how they love their force plates and using those things for making sure you get that data. I mean, that's like standard procedure stuff. So for the NFL, for a guy like that to be like, oh, he just needs to make sure he has symmetry in his hamstrings. Like, how are you not doing that? So that really
I'm surprised that they haven't picked that up with an ISO-K or something like that.
My concern is for the Packers medical team, and I'm going to go further into this, not for the hamstring thing, but for this. We've got guys
not that we have bad jobs, but if the Packers medical team needs an extra step, I don't really want to move to Green Bay, but
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, hey, yeah, we gotta get that approved by the old lady first. I don't know about that, man, but
this is true.
maybe Lambeau's an old stadium. Maybe it's like the Giants where their head trainer was like fucking 95, and it's like you see that meme where he's like,
is their weight room just full of like cinder blocks that they're like,
they don't, they're just real old school down there, man. Right. But yeah, my concerns continue, outside of the hamstring stuff. We got two guys, Zach Tom, Tucker Kraft, both with grade 3 pec tears, right? Both picked up this offseason. Zach Tom, your starting right tackle, that was in April. Tucker Kraft, your tight end 2, kind of a starter in 12 personnel. He picked it up in May. It's about
do we know how they picked these up?
They were both of them were quoted that it was working out with the bench press. And you know who also picked up a pec tear? Head coach Matt LaFleur. He picked up a pec tear too. Yeah. What the hell? Does Green Bay not know how to fucking exercise? Like, they don't know how to bench press?
It sounds like the strength and conditioning team really needs to take a couple steps back and see what we're actually doing.
I was reading an article. He said they were speed bench pressing or something like that, which I get like trying to get some power out of it and get some explosive movements, but
using some accommodating resistance, throwing some chains and bands around the bar. It's all the stuff.
Pros and cons, man. You got a risk first reward. Come on, what are we doing? I don't know. Hey, we're not trying to talk down any of our former colleagues, our fellow colleagues.
Trying to get jacked, dude.
When you read stuff like this, it's hard to not be a little bit judgmental from our side of view. I mean, these are basic stuff. You're hindering your starting right tackle and your tight end too from both of them and your head coach. You kidding me? The hell's going on down there in Green Bay? But anyway, let's get back to it. Zach Tom, both these about 2 to 3 months recovery timelines. Tom's got a 4.5 months. Tucker Kraft has got 3.5 months till the season. It's a situation where the fact that this happened is pretty bad. However, they should be okay coming in. I mean, we'll see. What's really important to both a tight end and offensive lineman? Your pecs doing this every play, right? Like, I think these are injuries that maybe it's
hence why they're doing speed presses. All right,
speed bench press. Maybe we should just start instead of clap push-ups. I think we should do clap bench press. That's what I'm gonna invent. I'm gonna show it to my soldiers next week.
Do some plyometric bench press.
Yeah.
Just toss the bar.
Plyo bench press. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But no, what's your takeaway here?
I mean, like you said, I mean, it's just kind of raises some eyebrows to why a multitude of people are getting pec tears.
Your head coach, man.
In Green Bay. But I mean, I get it, why they're doing speed presses and why they're trying to, improve their performance.
Yeah.
The off season's the time to do that. But at the same time, like we're pushing ourselves into the season at this point in terms of recovery. So
yeah, no,
I took it one step too far.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we are gonna now head into more of the takeaway situation. A little bit getting away from our concerns with their medical staff. So we talked about the young wide receiver core. I will give them kudos because I think on paper this is the best defense in the division. You got a lot of guys returning.
Good.
You don't agree?
They got first round talent everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you got Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Edrin Cooper at an A&M, Isaiah McDuffie, who played well, Jair Alexander, McKinney in the back end with Bullard and Stokes. Yeah, that's a lot of first-round picks, a lot of guys that have played well in the league. So I do like their defense. My biggest concern for this team is their offensive line. We talked about how they lost some guys to free agency. They got their starting right tackle recovering from a pec tear. Rasheed Walker, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, but with the H, I haven't heard of these dudes. They were all like late round picks a couple years ago, very unproven. You got Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom are solid players. Tom's had to play a lot with Bakhtiari being out, but no one on this offensive line scares me. No one is,
we kind of started seeing that, especially like middle point of the season when Aaron Jones was down, when AJ Dillon was in there, they had no running game. I mean, so that kind of shows you that even last year their offensive line wasn't moving people the way that they want them to. And they probably lost one of their best in terms of John Runyon. So
yeah, and that's going to lead me into my first bet for this team, and that's Josh Jacobs under 950.5 rushing yards. You're paying a little juice there, minus 135. It's the O-line for me. I think that's my biggest thing. Is like they still have AJ Dillon too. They did re-sign Dillon, so they still are going to give him some carries. I just don't think that Jacobs from one, he'll get some volume, but I just don't think they'll have a lot of success. I think it'll be a lot of that inefficiency. Unlike when he was with the Raiders, he's not going to be the only option now. So, I just don't think he's going to get close to that 1,000 yards. I could see him getting anywhere, 800, 850 maybe. But I think it's going to be a little more split than it was between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. And I just don't trust that offensive line to open up a lot of holes. He's not really someone who's going to have a lot of big explosive runs. He is a very kind of consistent kind of volume guy. But if you're not picking up the yards because you don't got any holes to run through, you're going to throw the ball. I don't hate Jordan Love. I think there's still some questions. I'm not definitely like a Jordan Love like truther. I'm not really on the hype train. I just think that, I think he's a pretty good quarterback. There's still some questions there. Their wide receivers, I think they're just better through the passing game. I think they're going to play good defense, and I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. So give me Josh Jacobs under 950.5. And then second bet is a little bit of exact order 1-2. Lions finish first and Packers to finish second at plus 350. You could take them top two, and I think it's closer to like plus 150 or something like that. But I just think that Lions finish first, Packers finish second. It kind of goes similar to what it was last year. Because, although I have concerns about their O-line, Jordan Love's pretty good. They got some good wide receivers, and their defense, I'm pretty damn impressed with that defense right now. So that's what I got. What about you?
All right, I'll throw one at you for Green Bay. So just looking at this division, historically, I know that the Bears have added a ton of pieces, but Green Bay owns Chicago. They basically own Minnesota. The only other team, and I think Minnesota takes a step back this year. So
we'll talk about them. Yep.
I think this one, I really like this one in terms of 3.5 or over 3.5 division wins for Green Bay.
Okay.
Like I said, they got 4 last year. They play really, really well against the Bears twice a year.
Yep.
I think they'll get at least one.
Rookie quarterback, good defense.
exactly. I think they'll get at least one from Minnesota, if not both of them. And then, with the Lions, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him splitting one.
So,
I think they split one last year, right? They went 1-1, or did
yes, they did. They did.
Lions? Yeah,
Yep.
I know the
They
Lions
went
took you to
1-1
them the
against
first
the
time.
Vikes and the Lions. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we're
That's
lockstep
plus
there.
120. So
Yeah, plus 120 is not bad too. Yeah, I think you're lockstep there. We're gonna get into it. But I'm a little bit higher on both the Lions and the Packers than the Bears and the Vikings. So I have no issues with that at all.
Agreed.
I think that's a good price. I think you're right. I think they can easily sweep. I mean, honestly, even if they just, I could see them sweeping the Vikings and the Bears, but if they take 3 there and then they just need to grab one from the Lions, I think that's very doable. To go ahead and get 4 division wins this year. All right. Before we move on, we're halfway through the teams. Let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. That
love
is
this Underdog.
right, folks. Love us some Underdog here. Again, promo code SGPN Doc for a deposit bonus up to $250 in bonus cash there. Look, all you have to do is it's very easy. You sign up, make an account, use promo code SGPN Doc, all one word, all caps. Then when you deposit, you get a bonus up to $250. So all you got to do, look, deposit $250, boom, instantly free $250. Your account's at $500, and then you can tail some of these locks that we're giving out here over at SGPN. Finals just wrapped up, but you got the college baseball if you want to throw some of those in there. You got the CFL. I know they've got some of that going on. Stanley Cup. So, I don't know if they'll have some more. You think they'll got Olympics or something? Maybe I don't know what they'll have.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
But on the NFL side, I know they do have some NFL season long plays, which can be pretty fun. So I'm sure we'll be giving out a couple of those as we get closer to the year. But they just did that pick 8 where they're bumping it up to 325x. That is right, folks. Just $1 can get you up to $325. So make sure you get over there on Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SGPN Doc. All right, getting back to it. Let's talk about what are we doing? Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota.
All right, we've got, again, we will start with their losses, additions, get into a little bit of takeaways, talk about the record. So your Vikings are coming off a 7-10 season where they lost Kirk Cousins to an Achilles tear and to the Atlanta Falcons. Danielle Hunter, stud pass rusher, is now on the Houston Texans. Alexander Madison didn't really work out well for them, but he's on the Raiders. KJ Osborne, wide receiver 3, is now on the Patriots. DJ Wonnum, who is, I think, a bigger bit a loss than people realize. He was pretty good pass rusher for them. He's on the Panthers. And then you got, we talked about Greg Joseph going to the Green Bay Packers. You also had linebackers Jordan Hicks and Anthony Barr also gone from that defense. As much as they lost, they brought in just as much. So Aaron Jones coming over from the Packers there. Sam Darnold locking up one of the best wide receiver in football, in my opinion, Justin Jefferson. We felt that was important enough to put on the additions. Sam Darnold, who may be the starting quarterback, is slated to start right now.
He's slated through training camp at least.
See. Van Ginkel from the Miami Dolphins, Renard from Houston Texans, Blake Cashman from the Houston Texans, and Dallas Turner, who I was a bit surprised dropped all the way down to them at that pick there when we had a big run of offense in the draft.
Hey, we're missing an addition.
Who do we got?
The quarterback of the national champion.
Oh yes, I'm surprised you brought that up as a Buckeyes guy.
No, I just want to hate on him, to be honest.
He is there. He does exist, and that's one of the things to take away, like QB battle. What are your thoughts going into training camp, and who's going to start?
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting because JJ McCarthy, to me, is definitely not ready to be an NFL starting quarterback. He's the prototypical program quarterback, like scheme quarterback. They didn't throw the ball in the second half. I think at least one game, if not 2 games, of the college football season.
When you say program quarterback, you're talking about like Tom Brady?
and he was a program quarterback at New England for the first like 4 or 5
okay.
years.
Okay. All right.
Anyways,
All right.
just ride the defense. This defense is not New England's defense of the early 2000s.
That
Just
is a great
saying.
point. That is a great point.
But anyways, no, I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and lock down a starting quarterback going into training camp, just so everybody knows like Sam Darnold's the guy right now, especially with JJ coming in there and he is a very athletic dude that
Yeah.
has a gun strapped to his shoulder. Half the time, that gun just wants to slide it in about anywhere. He'll just start chucking balls, and half the time they land in feet or 3 rows in the stands. But, yeah, I don't know.
But you're not salty about him not losing to Ohio State.
I'm very salty about that.
I just wanted to get that out there. All right. So yes,
We'll see if he can, match Stroud's rookie scheme of last year.
Okay. I will not be. I am not calling for a CJ Stroud season at all. But yeah, I will hold my comments because I think that gets into one of my bets there. So let's talk injuries real quick. Big one here for fantasy and for this team. TJ Hawkinson.
Probably the biggest one we're going to talk about tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep. TJ Hawkinson there. ACL, MCL tear. So if you pull up a diagram here of the knee, you've got your ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, your MCL on the inside part there. Both major stabilizing ligaments of the knee, both fully torn, both require surgery to fix. It's about a 10 to 12 month recovery timeline, and he injured himself late in December. He's only got about 8.5 months till the start of the season. What are you thinking here? He's going around tight end 13. He's got a pretty big range on the ADP front, but tight end 13, 12 to 15, and then in that 105 to 150 range around guys like Cole Kmet and David Njoku. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so from a Viking standpoint, this isn't good, especially with a new quarterback coming into town. You want all of your weapons available. TJ Hawkinson is a huge one. He's not going to be available for the first probably what would you say 6 to 8 weeks?
Yep.
At least. So I think from a fantasy perspective, that's where things get a little bit tricky for me. I think he's one that I probably would not draft, even though I really like TJ Hawkinson from a fantasy perspective, just because he's going to be on the IR. He's going to be on your bench for a good, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
With that being said, keep him on your radar because he is a stud. Once he gets back on the field, I think he's going to put up some numbers. But he's probably one that I would probably shift away from in terms of drafting because, like you said, he's on the bench for half the season.
No, I mean, I think you're being nicer than I am. He's a full fade for me this year.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he's a great player. I think he's a huge value for this team. I am avoiding him. Unless I can absolutely get him for a steal, I will not be drafting TJ Hawkinson this season. I don't think people understand. We have a multi-ligament injury, not just an ACL injury that does extend the recovery timeline there, does bring down your outcomes a little bit more. It hits your skill positions the hardest. I would want him to have at least a month and a half after the season starts until he really starts getting back into it. And that's really just getting back into playing full speed. I don't think he's going to be 100% right away. And I don't think there's any reason to rush them. I also don't see them having the best season. So I don't think they're going to really want to risk him moving forward by sending him out there too soon. So for me, TJ Hawkinson is not somebody I will be targeting at all in the drafts. He's going around guys like David Njoku, Cole Kmet. I'm not a big Kmet guy, but I would definitely rather have Njoku and take some other tight ends. That does leave a big hole. I mean, behind him, it's Josh Oliver, Robbie Tunyon, and Johnny Munt. What the fuck? Dude, I've been calling for this.
Dudes have had a week in the NFL season. Yeah, I've heard of them.
Maybe. I heard of Bobby Tunyon once before he tore his ACL with Aaron Rodgers and had 8 touchdowns that year. But, I mean, dude, I've been calling for this over on X, but I guess I'll do it here. Okay, as a guy who watched all the games of the United Football League, Sal Cannella is still
Mhm.
available. He was the best tight
Mhm.
end and one of the best receiving threats in the entire league by far. The Saints
Good
worked him
point.
out. They didn't take him for whatever fucking reason because New Orleans, a bunch of idiots there, and Dennis Allen. But whether it's the Rams or the Vikings, which we'll talk about Tyler Higbee too, but TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee are not starting this season. They will not be there for the first part of the season. Why is Sal Cannella not on the phone right away? Does not make any sense to me. Like, you're really going to roll out Josh Oliver and Bobby Tunyon, like, for your Sam Darnold or your rookie quarterback as your security blanket? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I like you said, TJ Hawkinson's a great player. This is a brutal injury. He's got a multi-ligament knee injury. He does not even have 9 months. The injury or the data shows, evidence shows significant injury risk increase for a re-tear if you come back before that 9-month mark. So come on, Vikings. What are you doing? Let my guy Sal Cannella in the league. But yeah, he's a fade for me. Other guys, Byron Murphy coming off an MCL tear. MCL tear alone is a lot. Yeah, a lot less of an issue. It happened at the end of the year, 1 to 2 month thing. He's got 8.5 months, should be fine. And then Andrew Van Ginkel coming off a foot injury. Still trying to find out a little bit about him. He ended the season on IR for Miami Dolphins. So something you want to monitor in training camp. We have not been able to get a lot of info on him, kind of keeping it close to the vest. Know he's coming off a fairly significant injury.
Right.
And hopefully it's something just like more of a Jones fracture, a fracture type, not a Liz Frank type, because, fracture type we're probably looking at closer to 3 to 4 months as opposed to anything super long term. So kind of keep the eyes peeled for Van Ginkel. Anything else on the injury front for you?
Nope.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about why don't you go ahead and give us your bets there. What do you got?
Yep. So a couple things. And we've kind of touched on these a little bit already. So without Hawkinson there, big opening for even more balls to be thrown towards Justin Jefferson's area, right?
Yep.
So between Jefferson, Addison, I would probably go Jefferson a little bit more in the red zone now that Hawkinson's out of there. I think Jefferson goes over 7.5 receiving touchdowns.
Okay.
That's at plus 100 right now on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And then we already talked about your boy JJ, the jet plane McCarthy. Who knows when he's actually going to be the starter? It could be week 1, it could be week 5, it could be week 10. We just don't know. So right now he is on DraftKings. His over-under is at 17.5 touchdowns. I'm taking the under every day of the week because I just don't trust him throwing the ball in the NFL. I can't. I honestly don't know why he was a top 11 quarterback drafted. It's just I can't do it.
Is that a unbiased opinion?
Yes.
Unbiased. Okay.
So.
Yeah. Now, I like the JJ.
It's I wouldn't say it's completely unbiased, but when it comes to my money, my betting is always unbiased.
Okay. Yeah. So pulling back the curtain a little bit. I like that. I've told Derek that I don't want to see his picks before, so we do not influence each other, because something like this, we are seeing this a little bit differently. So my best bet for this team, my only bet for the Vikings right now, is JJ McCarthy to be the day 1 starter at plus 210. Listen, as much as you don't like him, I'm not super high on the guy either, so I don't hate your under pick there. But they picked this man in the 10th for the 10th pick. They moved up in the draft 1 spot to get him at number 10. They literally wasted draft capital because the Jets weren't taking him unless they thought the Broncos were going to jump up for him. But from my understanding, they're like the only team that had him as even a first-round quarterback grade. So, I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I'm shocked. I was shocked that he even left this year. I thought he needed at least another year. But it's a different NFL, man. If you go up to the top 10, and what's going to sell tickets? Think about this. If you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, are you more excited for fucking Sam Darnold who's been seeing ghosts since however long. You know, he couldn't even beat out Zach Wilson.
Hey, he learned behind Brock Purdy. He's
No,
changed
he's
man
cured.
now.
He's
Changed
cured of
man.
sucking ass.
He
He
is.
couldn't make it work.
He sat out there in California for a year. He's good.
He's already got a second chance in Carolina. That shit burned up in flames, man. I think that if you're going to spend a top 10 draft pick, you're going to start the kid somehow, some way. From what you're saying, I think
It's already been reported that he's bouncing balls into receivers' feet. It's all right.
It's too late, man. You already made the pick. It's too late, man. I think you got it rolling out there. I think all right. So between Darnold and JJ McCarthy, if you're going to have someone who's going to make splash plays in training camp, they're going to go viral and get the crowd excited. You telling me it's fucking Sam Darnold or is it JJ McCarthy? Because I agree.
Hall.
It's what did you say?
Jaron Hall.
Jaron Hall.
I'm going Jaron Hall or Nick Mullins.
Oh my gosh. Are they still on the team? Yep, they're still on the team. I had to check over there.
They are according to
the depth chart. But no, I just think you spent the draft capital. JJ McCarthy plus 210. I like the price. But yeah, this team for me is very lukewarm. It's probably most lukewarm of a team as I'm going to have this year. Their defense is they're okay. Offense without Hawkinson, offensive line is
I think they take a step back.
Yeah,
their offensive line is meh.
I mean, they were 7-10 last year.
Yeah, Aaron Jones coming in gives him a little bit of a boost, but
yeah, I that's fair, but I don't think he does too much. You know, I think they finish around that record again, 7-10. You know, they're over under 6.5. It's pretty juiced to the over. I think I would lean over, but I'm not have a strong play there. I like the McCarthy day one start at plus 210 better. All right, you gave yours out for that, correct?
Yep.
All right. Before we get on to our last
ads.
Yep. Before we get on to our last team, we are talking about Rhythm. Look at you. Rhythm. That is listen, if you are betting on player props, you need to download Rhythm. Trust us. We will be betting on many player props. That's going to be our bread and butter coming into the NFL season. And Rhythm is a great tool to have as it transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. That was a lot of big words in that read. And it's not a surprise because this predictive model
you were able to get through that.
I'm proud of myself after this much whiskey. But it was born from the brains of your MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data.
Way smarter than us.
Drive you to better AI-backed making decisions. And it's never too early to start your NFL projections. Claim your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM over at Rhythm. It is pretty cool. They do have those predictive models that can take layman, cavemen like us over here and make you feel a little bit smarter in the analytics stats world. You don't have to just listen to some shitty capper talking about how they have a model so that makes them entitled and better than the, kiss their feet or some bullshit like that. Just pull up Rhythm and say, hey, I got a fucking model too. So, I think that's a nice way to say, just maybe don't let your wife hear you saying that. All right. So we've got one more team to talk about to finish up this NFC North. And then I'm hopefully going to go watch my Gators take down these Aggies. So Chicago Bears. Probably the most interesting team we're going to talk about as far as what the hell can we expect from these guys. Losses. Quarterback Justin Fields is now backing up quarterback Russell Wilson as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Not a sentence I thought I was going to be saying this offseason. We got wide receiver Darnell Mooney going to Atlanta. We got running back Deonta Foreman going to the Browns. Safety, former Alabama safety Eddie Jackson. Good player, ran into some injury issues of late. He's currently a free agent, as well as Yannick Ngakoue, kind of a journeyman defensive end who can get you some sacks in some situations. Bringing in the big ones, your first-round picks, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze out of Washington and USC, respectively. Keenan Allen coming from the Chargers, DeAndre Swift coming from the Eagles, Jared Everett coming from the Chargers, and Kevin Byard from the Titans, and then the Eagles, and then the Bears. What is your initial takeaways? What are you thinking right away for this big picture Chicago Bears?
They brought in some big names in one off season. They finished really, really well to the 2023 campaign. Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting what one Caleb Williams can bring to the NFL, because he's had all the hype in the world,
Yep.
and now it's time to go out and prove that he's not the 4 turnover quarterback that he was against Notre Dame last year. So
Yeah. That was. He's at. I mean, talk about highs and lows, man. I think that's.
No kidding.
I mean, that's their season right now, right? Like you're gonna live and die by Caleb Williams, right? Like, is he the guy or will he struggle? And that's not to say that if he struggles this year that he can't ever be the guy or that you completely write him off. But this is like LeBron James level hype, man. He's been getting this hype ever since his freshman year at Oklahoma when he took that as a guy who was on Kansas money line, that bullshit 4th down from the running back and ran it for a touchdown. It's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. But like he's a special player, but mentally, is he there? Right. I think you could ask that question in college. Now in college, he did have to do just about damn everything. That defense was
no kidding.
You can't even call them a defense. It's a disgrace to football.
Offensive line was not good.
I was like, he literally was a one-man show. So I think I don't want to be too harsh on him for some of those interceptions, some of those bad plays, because without him, that's like a fucking 5-win team over there in USC. So, but no, I think that's a big question: is how good is Caleb Williams going to be? If he is the guy, he's got some receivers in Allen Odumze, DJ Moore.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got weapons all around him. I mean,
he really does.
Those 3 receivers, bringing in Swift, okay. I mean, but you got Kmet still there. Their offensive line should be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, I think is he going to be good this year or not? And that's going to be the Chicago Bears season.
Yep. I think that's what they're going to live and die by. All right, let's talk about some of these injuries we talked about. You mentioned Cole Kmet there, starting tight end. He did pick up a forearm fracture last week 17. Fractures, if they're during the season, it sucks because you just need time. You need about 2 to 3 months to heal. There's not a lot you can do to accelerate that healing process. Sometimes you can have a surgery to kind of make them more stable, but 2 to 3 months, he's got 9 months or 8 months for the season. He should be good to go. Other is they're starting right guard, I believe, Nate Davis. He's got a foot injury. Not a lot we could find there on what's going on with the foot, but he was limited in camp and it's been undisclosed. They expect him good for training camp, but that's what everybody fucking says about every injury around this time. So I think that's definitely one to monitor because that offensive line, it does look pretty decent on paper, but they've been suffering from injuries. We saw how much Fields had to run for his life. If Caleb Williams has to do the same, that's really not a great way you want to start your career in the NFL.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. So, yeah, man,
that's something that I haven't heard being talked about a lot, but like Caleb Williams had the same system all the way through college. Like,
Lincoln Riley
followed him to USC. So it'll be interesting switching over.
That's a good point. I can't say the Bears have been known to be a quarterback friendly offense. So they really haven't hit home, whether it's Trubisky, Fields, or any of these other fuckers. Maybe Jay Cutler was the last one that actually could sling it. But,
probably.
Yeah, that's the thing. All right, some of these big
Rex
takeaways.
Grossman.
Rex Grossman, gee whiz. Bigger takeaways here for me. We'll start with the secondary. I think the secondary is a really good unit. You got Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, Tyreek Stevenson. I think the biggest concern is actually Kevin Byard. He looked like a shell of himself when he went over to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, maybe that's because the Eagles just can't play fucking defense and they ruin everything in that shitty ass city. But Byard definitely looked like he lost a step. So that might be concerning. But other than that, they got a solid secondary on paper. Really, their defensive line for me, outside of Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat is, I think that's one of the coolest stats last year was he led both the Commandos and the Bears in sacks when he got traded midseason. You got DeMarcus Walker Andrew Billings and Gervon Dexter. I know Dexter because he's a Gator. He's got a lot of potential. He hasn't really put it all together. So
Billings was a Baylor guy, to be honest, but he's one of those like just giant human beings that hasn't necessarily panned out.
Yeah,
in the NFL. He's been a journey, not necessarily a journeyman, but he's been okay, kind of 2-3 option.
Yeah, I mean, but none of those guys really impressed me other than Montez Sweat. So he's gonna probably get in a lot of double teams this year. I will still be interested to see his sack number because I think he does produce. So they really should still bring. I'm surprised, they let Ngake walk and they did not really bring in anybody else to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now, again, they do have a pretty good secondary. Their linebackers are pretty good, but again, without a D line, man, it's going to make life really hard for the rest of the defense. So we'll see there. And I think it's me. I will go ahead and start on this one. That brings me up to so we talked about, hey, there's a lot of potential. I think this is one of the teams that has the largest variability out of this entire division. We really don't know what we're going to get. I think it's a gift that I think they're getting too much respect in the market. I think I'm going to go miss playoffs at plus 100. I think it's, this is a team that was 7-10 last year. They've been pretty bad the past couple years. They're going to have a completely different kind of style of offense with Caleb Williams as opposed to Justin Fields. And that D-line, man, that D-line kind of scares me. So it's really the questions between Caleb Williams. We'll talk about the running back situation, which I don't love, and the defensive line. I think that's enough to push them out of the playoffs. I like the Packers and the Lions in this division, especially the Lions. So I just think that they do miss the playoffs. I don't think there's 3 teams coming from this division. They might be able to beat the Vikings, but I do not think they're as good as the Packers and Lions. I think they need a little more time. And, even though Caleb Williams may be the guy, he's still a rookie quarterback. There's still going to be growing pains there. So give me miss the playoffs at plus 100. The other one I'm going to talk about is, and we can talk about this from a fantasy perspective, the running back room for the Chicago Bears right now is DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, and Khalil Herbert. Deontay Foreman is no longer there, but you've got 3 kind of guys to me that are all at the same kind of tier, the same level. So this screams running back by committee for me. Although Swift is listed number 1 on the depth chart, I think Johnson and Herbert are going to get a ton of carries. And I also think they're going to throw the ball a decent amount with that wide receiver trio. So give me DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns. He's had 5 rushing touchdowns the last 3 years when he's been a little bit more of the guy. He still hasn't had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I think, again, it's going to be a running back committee, and I do think they're going to air it out. And I don't know how many touchdowns this team is really going to put up in general. So give me DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns as my second bet there. What do you got for the people?
Well, I thought I was going to sound all smart and pick the Bears to miss the playoffs, but you already stole my thunder there.
We'll just co-sign it.
Yeah, so I'm going to co-sign that one. But like you said, I think the defense I think does take a step back. Caleb Williams is the question. The offensive line, meh, the running backs, meh, wide receiver. They brought in,
they've got good wide receivers. Yep.
Bringing in Keenan Allen, bringing in Odunze. Both look like studs. It'll be interesting to see how much they try to get Odunze going.
Yeah.
Especially when Allen's probably on a 1-year rental kind of a deal. But like you said, I think if there's going to be multiple teams coming out of this division, I think the Packers are better. I think the Lions are better. I just don't. I can't trust a rookie quarterback very often. CJ Stroud kind of was in the minority.
I think it's best case scenario, right? And they barely
by far the best.
They won their division, but they barely made the playoffs. So
exactly. So I think it's just not likely that a rookie quarterback leads his team to the playoffs. So I'm gonna co-sign that one for the Bears to miss the playoffs. And I kind of already touched on this a second ago too, but with that trio of wide receivers, Caleb Williams is going to have all kinds of options to people to throw it to. And throw Kmet in there. Swift is pretty good coming out of the backfield. So I think I'm going to take Odunze's under 675 receiving yards at minus 115, just because, like I said, I think they're going to get Keenan Allen rolling. They paid him a shit ton of money for a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
They want to get him involved. DJ Moore's been there for quite a while at this point. They know how he operates.
Yeah.
He's the vet. So I think they'll want to get him going as well. And Odunze, he's going to fit in there somewhere. I mean, he's a talented dude. He's a top 10 pick, but that room is so jam packed right now. You know,
Yeah.
a year or two from now, he's going to be a dude, or at least hopefully. But I think he starts his career a little bit slower.
Yeah, I don't hate that. He's another guy who was high on Odunze. I almost wanted the Giants to get him over Neighbors. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, you do have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and that running backs out of the backfield, right? And let's be honest, Caleb Williams is probably going to do some damage on the ground with his legs. So it is just about like I think it's just less of a Rome Odunze play, and just like, you know, a lot of mouths to feed there in Chicago. Yep. So I think Caleb Williams can have a solid season without this team making the playoffs, right? We talked about, you know, they got a pretty good secondary, but Byard gives me some questions, and they have that defensive line really, like, and their O-line, like, you know, a lot has to go right for this team to make the playoffs. And I think if we're getting plus money for them to miss it, I think this odd makers are just, everybody's a little too excited in Chicago, which, I mean, hey, they're a great fan base. They deserve some success, but I just don't think they have put it all together this season. All right, folks, that is the 4 teams in the NFC North. We were talking the biggest injuries, breaking down free agency market, and then talking our biggest takeaways, biggest concerns, and our best bets and fantasy football takes. We're going to do a quick recap for you guys to talk about the bets. So I will first start it off talking about Derek's bets here. So he had Sam Laporta over 850 receiving yards at minus 115. Green Bay Packers over 3.5 division wins at plus 120. JJ McCarthy under 17.5 touchdowns at minus 115.
Way down.
JJ Jefferson over 7.5 receiving touchdowns at plus 100. Bears to miss the playoffs, and Rome Odunze under 675.5 receiving yards at minus 115. For myself, I had the Detroit Lions NFC North champs at plus 150. Amon-Ra St. Brown to lead the league in receiving at 11-1. Josh Jacobs under 950.5 rushing yards at minus 135. The Lions to finish first, the Packers to finish second at plus 350. JJ McCarthy to be the day one starter for your Minnesota Vikings at plus 210. And the Chicago Bears to miss the playoff at plus 100. And DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns as part of that running back committee there in Chicago. All right, brother. I think we are about done. What do you got for the people? Any parting words? Any gripes? Any questions, concerns, comments?
No, nothing. Nothing that really comes to mind. You know, if you like what we're talking about, what we're doing, what we're throwing out there, like, follow, share, send it to send it to your significant others, your best friend, your grandma, whoever likes to watch football.
There you go. Look at this call to action there from my co-host. But as he's saying, folks, look, we're a new show here, the DGen Jocks. If you do enjoy just 2 dudes that look at football a little bit differently due to, hey, we grew up studying, loving football, but also studying and understanding injuries and how that interacts with the game. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, leave us a comment. Like we said, we did the NFC South. Now this is the NFC North. We're going to do the NFC West next, and then we'll finish up with the NFC East and head on to the AFC there. So we're going to be knocking all these out before training camp. If you got any questions about a certain guy, a certain player, something comes up, reach us out to us. If you just like what you were talking about, want to shoot the shit and drink some whiskey with us, we invite you to join us. As always, folks, we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. We appreciate you, and the DGen Docs are out of here. What's up, DGens? Doc here. As a proud member of the U.S. Army and a lover of football, sometimes those two things cross over on here. But as you probably already know, as a lowly captain, these are just my opinions. These are not opinions that are representative of the entire DoD or the U.S. Army. The same thing goes for any references to any commercial products or hyperlinks. Again, that does not constitute an endorsement from the DoD or the Army. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, let it ride, baby.